Professor Austin is here to teach you, and you, Richard, how Brandon Sanderson creates his magic systems with his 3 laws of magic. Are you ready to get professed? Some teaching done. What the hell was that?
We don't need no...
He said he had a surprise for me. I didn't expect a blow dart to the face. That was incredible. You know what? You know what made it scarier is there's a 10% chance that was a real blow dart. So that was frightening.
The fact that you first thought it would be fire. You thought I was going to light you on fire.
I was like, what's he got behind him? It's going to be a match. It's going to be something. That was a surprise.
I don't like being educated, Austin.
Well, listen, you're about to get educated. You ready? So, viewers, if you're along for this ride, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of Sanderson's magic system with his first law of magic. Do you know what it is?
Why don't you educate me, sir?
You know what? I will, student, okay? Here's what it is. Law number 1 from Brandon Sanderson is your ability to solve problems with magic in a satisfying way is directly proportional to how well the reader understands said magic. Now, to break that down, if that makes sense, basically, if you understand how the magic works, when it solves problems in the story and the conflicts, it's going to be a hell of a lot more satisfying. Do you think that tracks?
Yeah, well, it basically circumvents the whole angle of magic being a deus ex machina. And readers feeling like, oh, you just wrote it this way because that's the way to solve the problem, rather than it feeling organic.
Sanderson has a lecture series online where I got all this stuff from. Check his stuff out. He's amazing. I saw all of his series. And that's the first thing he said when introducing this, in that Deus Ex Machina, he always knew he hated Deus Ex Machinas. Always knew that it was bad. And he put into words a law that showed, oh, that's why I don't like Deus Ex Machinas. Mm-hmm. So, and it makes sense. And in that conversation, as he was talking about his first law, it's where he got into the topic of hard versus soft magic, where there's actually 2 different things going on, where his magic systems, Stormlight, Mistborn, anything really, and I think your favorite of all magic systems, Mistborn, right?
If not my favorite, it's technically at least a top 5 magic system, arguably one of the best.
And it's hard magic.
Yeah, I would say maybe one of the few magic systems above that would be Hunter x Hunter, which is also hard magic system. Yeah. Hard, like way too complex to get into.
And for those jumping on the convo here, the hard versus soft just means a hard magic is the rules are explained. You understand the consequences, and you can go, okay, you can do this with the magic, you can't do that. Whereas soft, it's more... Actually, the example Sanderson uses for soft magic is Gandalf. And for a more harder magic would be the Ring. Now, not completely hard magic, but leans more toward hard magic, where the Ring, you understand, you turn invisible, and you can grow old, very old, but the consequences of that being you turn into Gollum and Sauron knows where you are. Yeah. So you understand what happens. Whereas Gandalf, with his staff, what?
Kind of just does stuff.
Does
cool stuff, by the way.
Very cool stuff.
He does do cool stuff.
Cooler than you. Admit it.
See, I don't like admitting things, even when you're right.
Even when it's Gandalf, really.
Even when you're objectively right, I just don't like saying you're right.
Well, can you at least call me professor when you say that? This episode, that's it.
I shouldn't have thrown away my spitball.
It's behind me now. I will use it by the end of the video. So with his first law, it really dives into that hard versus soft, where a hard magic system is good at that problem solving.
Yeah.
Where the soft magic, and by the way, Gandalf is there for a reason in the story. Sanderson says that soft magics can be just as emotionally payoff as a hard magic can, whereas he says a hard magic system is good for the practicality of solving a problem, where not explaining the magic, keeping it soft, keeping it Gandalf, gives you a sense of wonder. And that's why Gandalf's in the story. And these are Sanderson's words, so I'm not smart enough to think of this, but Gandalf is in The Lord of the Rings to show how small the hobbits are, how little they understand, and it extends the entire message of the story. Of these are hobbits from the Shire, and what do they know? Yeah. And so it's unexplained. Whereas the hard magic of the Ring is explained because it affects our main character, Frodo, and goes throughout the journey. Does that make sense? Was that professed really well?
You guys will have to tell us in the comments. Did Professor Austin actually profess well?
Yeah, that's right. You're damn right. I professed the professorship, but that brings us into rule number 2 of the magic system, which is flaws or limitations are more interesting than the powers themselves.
Yes, that is true almost across the board in almost any medium.
Yeah.
It not doesn't just apply to magic systems too. Is those kind of limits and rules are there so you can press right up against them. If there are no rules, there's nothing to rebel against.
It's for you. Your biggest example you've brought up is freeform jazz, right?
Yep. It's my least favorite thing I can think of.
Just do anything you want. Whereas,
oh god, if you want a bad time, go to your local college campus and seek out the local like jazz professor and all there, and find out that when they're doing a freeform jazz demonstration, because of course they are. Do that if you really want a terrible time. It's entertainingly bad.
But then creating rules in jazz makes it sound better. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
Whereas even with games, so chess, one of my favorite board games, has rules in chess. Otherwise, if you could do anything with the pieces, what's the fun of playing chess?
There is no rogue in an anarcho state.
I'm not. You know, I am the professor this episode, but I didn't quite understand that. Student, could you be the mentor for once and explain that sentence?
For a rogue to be, there has to be some type of system for them to be to rogue against. They have to actually have a system to circumvent.
That was insightful.
If there is no system, if it's all anarchy, then everyone's a rogue. And if everyone's a rogue, no one is. Syndrome is our greatest
Editor,
philosophy.
can you put some freeform jazz in the background right now just to get...
Don't you dare. We pay you. But don't do it.
Do it.
50% of that check is mine that we sent you.
So with Law 2, flaws and limitations being better, it's so true in fantasy as well, where Sanderson in his world building and magic system explanation goes flying. Okay, if you can fly, sure, that's interesting, but the story immediately becomes more engaging when, let's say, and this is Sanderson's example, you can only fly when your parents are asleep. Immediately you go, okay, so I can only fly at night. Do I have to do things to get my parents to go to sleep if I have to go over here and save somebody? Or what happens if my parents die? Can I still fly? Immediately makes the story so much more compelling than, oh, you just fly.
Well, wouldn't that just incentivize the kid to...
drug his parents?
No. I mean, death is just the eternal slumber.
You know, that's an option.
It's always an option.
You don't have anything else you're hiding there? No more weapons? Just the blow dart.
Oh, the knives are off screen.
There actually is a knife off screen. Okay, so that's Law 2. That probably my favorite law. I like to abide by that one. And mind you, with Sanderson's magic system, this is for him. This is how he writes his magic. Mm-hmm. And he leans way into the hard side of magic systems. And like he said, you can still have a good soft magic system with Gandalf being an example.
I generally enjoy a good soft magic system because it makes me... Often it gets me to think and just have more whimsy. It puts me into the world more.
Oh, yeah.
However, I do like hard magic systems because I'm typically a fan of sci-fi. And so when you start going into really hard magic systems, it starts turning into sci-fantasy.
Right.
And I enjoy that quite a bit. So Stormlight 4, for me, is a lot of fun because that's implemented a lot.
Yes. And that's where the magic system will be an emphasis and magnify whatever story it's trying to tell. So with Sanderson's stories are very character and plot focused. So the hard magic system really works with that. Whereas a Studio Ghibli film, if you're watching Studio Ghibli, who cares about the plot, and the character? Well, what you're looking for is that sense of wonder.
See, that's feeling. Actually a criticism against hard magic systems that I've heard before, is that the harder the magic system is, where all the rules and just kind of this in-depth physics, the new fantasy physics engine works, the harder it is, the more page time it typically takes up, and it sometimes gets in the way of the story. So that's what I've heard plenty of complaints on Stormlight 4, is that the magic system gets in the way. Because it's like, please just get back to the actual plot.
Yeah.
I'm not giving any plot, but like that's a criticism of, hey, get back to the plot. You're going like several pages deep into the functionality of the magic. I just want you to do stuff.
Sanderson's own explanation of where he wants to lie on that spectrum is he wants to be hard magic, but if there's a 4-point scale, he wants to be on the 3rd point. Did I profess that well at all? Probably doesn't make sense. But imagine a scale like this. He wants to be here if this is hard magic. And, I'll do that again for you. He wants to be here if it's hard magic. So you get it. And so with that, what he means is in the early books, Way of Kings, no spoilers, he will explain some of the magic, then keep a lot of it mysterious so that he can fill in the gaps later. Like by the time he does in book 4. But he likes to keep some mystery element. He definitely dives into the hard magic by the time he gets into his series, though.
Definitely more so than
most
anyone else, yeah.
That was just Law 2. You ready for Law 3?
Hit me.
Law 3. I said 3 to be a cool professor. Law Trace.
If you got all the way through here, a comment profess down in the comments below. We know you got that far.
Yeah.
And also tell us how much you really hate Professor Austin.
Let me know if you want Professor Austin back with the glasses. It's like a different persona. It's where your insults don't even faze me. It's because I can see through them.
You've gotten a lot better at holding back the tears until after we're recording. I'm very impressed.
It's like I'm in the corner, it's just editing. Okay, Law 3, here it is. Before adding something new to your magic or setting in general, see if you can instead expand on what you have. So long short of it is expand rather than widen. So go deeper rather than wider in your magic system. What do you think about that general rule?
Again, it kind of goes back to it generally a good rule for both characters, world building, all this stuff.
Remember, this is how to write Sanderson. This is how he loves to write magic. So it's not a universal, he calls them laws, but he says, hey, they're laws for him.
Yeah, so. It makes sense for him. And again, same problem can pop up. If you go too deep into something, people can kind of get... If they start diving and they're already not interested, you just keep making the problem worse if they're not a fan of that type of deal. So that's a potential problem.
Okay. But overall, those 3... There's actually an additional law I'll mention as well. But those 3 laws would... For his magic systems, it completely makes sense. That's how he writes his magic. And regardless of your preferences, I think it's universally true that Sanderson will go down as one of the best magic systems writers ever in the history of fantasy. He really has made that staple.
For the most part, it all comes down to Mistborn. Mistborn is one of the best fantasy magic systems done. It maybe is not the best, but it's certainly in the top 10.
Masterclass level.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he has another law. He calls it the 0th law of magic. This is from Sanderson. I'm not making this up. This is something I would make up. But he says, always err on the side of what is awesome.
Yeah.
That's a universal law.
That's general. If you don't do that, it's a pretty boring story.
Just write and then, hey, if this is cool, go with that.
Like Gideon the Ninth.
What's in there?
general, an okay book.
Yeah.
What can you think of that is just like cool but stupid?
You?
Finally got one on me. But no, it's lesbian necromancers from space. That's nonsense.
That's cool.
But it's cool. Err on the side of cool, that's what this is.
I do take that back, though. I meant to call you stupid, not cool. Like, it backfired on me a little bit. I was too focused on the stupid part and accidentally called you cool.
I will take that. I'm generally not a man of science or intellect, but I do try and have the gift of gab.
Well, this has been Professor Austin, and that's how you write a magic system according to Brandon Sanderson. Ow, I just hurt my ear pulling my glasses off.
Good.